Good morning, friends. Today's lecture is on Tibeto-Burman languages. As a part of South Asian languages, we are focusing on different language families, and today we will be focusing on Tibeto-Burman languages. Now, what are the major branches of Tibeto-Burman languages? We have Tibeto-Burman as well as Chinese, both share as a part of Sino-Tibetan languages. In Tibeto-Burman languages, we have different branches. We have like Kamarupan, Himalayish, Quingik. So these are the different types of sub-language families which are part of Tibeto-Burman. So we can see as Tibeto-Burman and Chinese, these two are part of Sino-Tibetan language family, so they share so many similarities. Sino-Tibetan family of languages includes the Sinitic branch and Tibeto-Burman languages spoken in almost the whole of China, Western Himalayas and in the highlands of Northeast India. This is the second largest family in terms of number of speakers after Indo-European family. So Indo-European family, they have so many, like has the largest number of speakers, and second place goes to Sino-Tibetan. In India, Tibeto-Burman languages are spoken almost along the great Himalaya mountain ranges, right from the Ladakh in the north to the northeastern states up to Tripura, Burma, Bangladesh. Sino-Tibetan languages were known for a long time by the name Indo-Chinese, which is now restricted to the languages of Indo-China. The Tibeto-Burman languages, numbering more than 400, are spoken throughout the highlands of Southeast Asia as well as certain parts of East Asia and South Asia. The term Tibeto-Burman comes from Burmese, like one part is Burmese and second part is Tibetan. So Burmese is having 32 million speakers and Tibetan languages over 8 million speakers. And these two languages have got extensive literary traditions dating from the 12th and 7th centuries respectively. So these two being the major languages under Tibeto-Burman, the term Tibeto-Burman is taken. Most of the other languages are spoken by much smaller communities and many of them have not been described in detail. The Tibeto-Burman languages have evolved from the ancestral languages Proto-Tibeto-Burman. So if you look at the features of Proto-Tibeto-Burman, we find many features have been retained by present Tibeto-Burman languages in vastly different ways and their own pace, in accordance with the geographical and social factors that have determined the fate of Central and South Asian people. Most of the Tibeto-Burman languages are spoken in inaccessible mountain areas and many are unwritten, which have greatly hampered their study. So we have already seen the languages, where like many of the languages are spoken in the hill area, and whenever we find like the languages which are spoken in hill areas are less likely to have literary traditions, and because of which like they do not get that much of prominence and prestige. Of the modern Tibetan languages and dialects, the Western ones have preserved the initial consonant clusters and the final stops most faithfully. Now, if you look at the characteristics of Tibetan languages, so what we find, the Western one, the languages which are spoken in the Western part of this Tibetan language families, they have preserved the initial consonant clusters and the final stops most faithfully, and have had the least compensational development of tones. So languages which are spoken in the Western part. Now Western part would be in Tibeto-Burman language family or the Tibetan languages, it is the northeast region of India, right? So they have what they have done, they have preserved the initial consonants clusters which were part of Proto-Tibeto-Burman languages and final stops also, and they are least affected by the development of tones. But if you look at the languages which are spoken in the eastern part of Tibetan language families, we find they are mostly influenced by the tone, because other languages of Tibeto, like Burmese, they are influenced by tones, because Chinese language is a tonal language. Right? Most central language and dialects, including Lhasa, have lost all consonant clusters and final stops. So Western has preserved, Central has lost it, and in the process have acquired a large inventory of single consonants and a system of tones. So Central part, they have lost the consonant clusters, but they have single consonants, and they are trying to preserve, or like trying to gain the tone ones, system of tone. Western no tone, but they have clusters. Central single consonants, they don't have clusters, they have single consonants, but they are having this tone system. So Eastern would have, I think like it would be, is there? No. Eastern would be more likely to have the tone system. These changes and the reductions are linked to a similar shaping of certain grammatical processes of word formation that operate only through the suprasegmental and syllabic elements. To a surprising degree, however, modern Central Tibetan possesses grammatical categories identical with or very similar in content, though not in form, to those of Classical Tibetan. So, the Classical Tibetan is reflected in the Central Tibetan languages, not Western but Central Tibetan languages. The relationship of nouns to the main verb is indicated through post-pose particles. The agent of transitive verb indicated as the one by whom the action is performed, and the subject of an intransitive verb expressed as the object or goal of the action. So this we find in Hindi also, like we find where subject of intransitive verb, when you put ne, like maine roti khai, the moment you put ne, the subject of transitive verb behaves like the object of transitive verb behaves like the subject of transitive verb. Here subject of intransitive verb expressed as the object or goal of the action. This is very interesting phenomenon actually. Nominal modifiers precede the nouns. Yes, like in English also, good boy, good girl. So nominal modifiers, they precede the noun. Verbal modifiers follow them. In Odia, it is not like in Odia, verbal modifiers also precede verbs. Sigro ase. We don't say ase sigro. But in Tibeto-Burman, like the verbal modifiers follow them. Okay, so it is like nominal modifiers precede the nouns and verbal modifiers follow them. Alright. The main verb always placed after all nouns and is followed by particles expressing aspect and tense. So in order to express aspect and tense, they use particles. Unlike Odia and Hindi language, where it is like very much part of the verbal morphology, but for them it is the extra. And that's why we find many of the times that people from Northeast, it's a general statement, when they speak English also, they are likely to miss out on the tense aspect. So we might hear sometimes, like instead of saying that he goes or she goes, they say he go, or she go, right? Let's look at the distribution of Tibeto-Burman languages. A wide variety of Tibeto-Burman languages are spoken in the southern slopes of Himalayas. Sizable groups that have been identified are the West Himalayish languages of Himachal Pradesh and the Western Nepal. The Tamangic languages of Western Nepal, including Tamang with 1 million speakers, and the Kiranti languages of Eastern Nepal. The remaining groups are small with several isolates, which cannot it is difficult to make them part of Tibeto-Burman languages. The newer languages of Nepal Bhasha of central Nepal has a million speakers and has also literature dating from the 12th century. Nearly a million people speak Magaric languages, but the rest have small speech communities. The Tani languages include most of the Tibeto-Burman languages of Arunachal Pradesh and the adjacent areas of Tibet. The Brahmaputran or Sal languages include at least the Bodo Koch or Konyak languages. In the present slide, we see that map of Chinese and Tibeto-Burman languages. So, the area which is colored with yellow is belong to Chinese languages, and the Tibeto-Burman languages we can see different colors. So, there are different colors indicating the major languages of Tibeto-Burman languages. So, we can see the Tibetan, Rungi, Tanti, Konyak, Naga, Mikir, Methil, Kuki-Chin, Bodo-Garo. So, there are so many languages we could see present in the northeast region of India and outside India also. Who are the major scholars of 18th century belonging to Tibeto-Burman languages? So, Brand, Houghton, Hodgson collected a wealth of data on the non-literary languages of the Himalayas and northeast India, noting that many of these were related to Tibetan and the Burmese. The name Tibeto-Burman was first applied to this group in 1856 by James Logan, who added Karen in 1858. Julius Claude had noted in 1823 that Burmese, Tibetan and Chinese all shared common basic vocabulary, but Thai, Mon and Vietnamese were quite different. And that's why we find there is these Tibeto-Burman and Chinese language are part of Sino-Tibetan language, right? Jean Price-Lusky introduced the term Sino-Tibetan. If you look at the classification made by G.A. Grierson in 1909, Grierson classified Tibeto-Chinese family into the Siamese Chinese subfamily, of which Khamti is a representative spoken in India and the other branch is Tibeto-Burman. This sub-branch is subdivided into first Tibeto-Himalayan branch, second the North Assam branch, and third the Assam Burmese branch. Tibeto-Himalayan branch is further divided into Tibetan group, the pronominalized Himalayan group, which is further divided into the Western subgroup and the Eastern subgroup, and the non-pronominalized Himalayan group. All the subgroups have innumerable small and big languages under them. There have been two milestones in the classification of Sino-Tibetan and Tibeto-Burman languages by Schaeffer and Benedict, which were actually produced in the 1930s and 1940s respectively. Schaeffer 1955 based his classification on specific data and divided the Sino-Tibetan family into 6 divisions. So these are the major scholars. So how Schaeffer has divided Sino-Tibetan? He divides like Tibetan into first Sinitic and second is like Daik. And this Sinitic is further divided to Bodek. Okay, total like he has divided Sino-Tibetan language family into 6 divisions: Sinitic, Daik, Bodek, Burmic, Barik and Karenic. So under these major divisions there are so many languages. Whereas Benedict in 1952 he divided the Sino-Tibetan language into 2 types: Chinese and Tibeto-Karen. So under Tibeto-Karen we have Karen and Tibeto-Burman. Tibeto-Burman family is then divided into 7 primary branches. So these 2 branches are also further divided into 7 primary branches. So far we have seen the Tibetan languages. Now if you look at the Burmese languages, the most widely spoken of Tibeto-Burman language is Burmese, which has around 32 million speakers. The national language of Myanmar with about 32 million speakers, and a literary tradition dating from the early 12th century. The modern standard Burmese has undergone a set of radical changes where initial Tasha and Tasa and Tasha have become Sa and Sha. Sa has become Tha. Ya and Ra have coalesced as Ya, Kya and Kra. Ya, okay, Ya. So this Ya and Ra have coalesced as Ya, Kya and Kra as the palatal Cha. So how we can see how these 2 sounds are merged into one. Ya and Ra have become Ya, Kya and Kra have become as a palatal Cha. Furthermore, all final consonants except nasals have coalesced as glottal stops, and all nasals have resulted in nasalization of the preceding vowel. So what we find? We find that final consonants except nasals, they are merged as the glottal stops. So nasal becoming final nasal stop, consonants becoming glottal stops, and nasals which are occurring before the vowels, they have become nasalized. In addition, the quality of vowels have been greatly altered. When you look at the phonology of Tibeto-Burman languages, we find the Proto-Tibeto-Burman language is the reconstructed ancestor of the Tibeto-Burman languages. Among other researchers, Paul K. Benedict and James Matisoff have made proposals for the reconstruction of these languages. The phonology of Proto-Tibeto-Burman here is from Matisoff's 2003 reconstruction, much of which is based on Benedict's earlier reconstructions. Proto-Tibeto-Burman vowels can be split into primary and secondary sets. When you look at the consonants, we find that Proto-Tibeto-Burman has at least 23 consonants as per Matisoff. Some descendants of Proto-Tibeto-Burman, especially the Kyangic languages, have developed dozens of sibilant fricatives and the affricates. So these are the consonant chart of Proto-Tibeto-Burman languages, and these have been retained by the present day modern Tibeto-Burman languages also. The tones of Tibeto-Burman languages remain a controversy in terms of history and development. As we have already seen that the Tibetan languages which are present in the western region do not exhibit tones. What they have is consonant clusters, okay. But if you look at the languages which are spoken in the central part, they have single consonants. They don't have consonant clusters, they have single consonants, and they do have manifest the presence of tones, and that's why it has been a very controversy while studying the history and development of these tones in Tibeto-Burman languages. Most of the Tibeto-Burman languages have tones at phonemic level and or voice registers as well. It seems now that in various branches, tone developed independently. However, the tones found in Chinese, Vietnamese and many other languages led many scholars in the past to include many groups and families into one family. So based on tones, they wanted to group the languages as belonging to a single family. But now Vietnamese, out of it, as scholars have accepted that it is a Austroasiatic languages. So based on tone, they wanted to put Vietnamese somehow related to Chinese language. But after lots of intensive and extensive studies by the different scholars, it has come to it has been claimed that Vietnamese do not belong to Sino-Tibetan language, rather it is a part of Austroasiatic language. So what are the other Austroasiatic languages? Do you have Austroasiatic languages which is found in Odisha?
No.
We have many Austroasiatic languages. We don't say Austroasiatic, but Austroasiatic language family branch is there called Munda language family. So if you go like the ancestor of Munda language family is a Munda language family is a part of Austroasiatic language family.
Okay. Munda is coming from the Austroasiatic
language family. But since there is a dominance of Munda language in Odisha, scholars have tried to highlight and popularize that Munda can also be treated as a separate language family. If you look at the linguistic characteristics of these languages, what we find is there have been preservation of stops. How? Sino-Tibetan languages go through a series of 4 stages in which final stops and nasals gradually decay as per Matisse. We have already seen, right? Where final stops becoming glottal stops and nasals becoming nasalized before the preceding vowel sounds. The 6 final stops and nasals like pa, ta, ka, ma, na, ng are all intact. Written Tibetan, Lepcha, Konori, Garo, Cantonese are currently in this stage. So they are intact in these languages. 1 and more final consonants have been reduced or dropped. In Jing, Po, and Nua, Nung, the velar ka are replaced by glottal stops, while in other languages they are completely dropped. In Mandarin Chinese, all final stops are dropped and ma has merged with na. All final stops become glottal stops or constrictions such as creaky voices, and final nasals may be replaced by nasality in the preceding consonants. Languages currently in this stage include modern Burmese and Lahu. So if you want to check the linguistic characteristics of these sounds, we find that these Burmese and Lahu, they show these kind of patterns where final stops are becoming glottal stops and nasal sounds are becoming nasalized. There are no glottal and nasal traces of former final consonants left in the syllables. Tibeto-Burman was a verb final, subject-object verb as S or SOV language with postpositions with agglutinative morphology. Proto-Tibeto-Burman is now reconstructed with split ergative case, making marking and verb agreement system as per Delancey 1987. Also, many of these languages like Newari have numeral classifiers. In Odia also we have classifiers. We have like Gote, Drita, Tinta. Okay. So this ta is a classifier. Pronominalization is a unique feature of some of the Himalayan languages like Bantwa, Rai, Limbu, Chepang, Manchar, Bunan, Konori and few others. If you look at the syllable structure, according to James Matisse, Proto-Tibeto-Burman syllables typically consist of the following structure. It has P1, P2 starts with P2, P1, C, I, G, V, vowel as long vowels, I think, yes, and then CF and S. So what are these structures? P1 stands for first prefix option, which is optional. P2 is a second prefix, which is also optional. CI is the initial consonant, which is mandatory. G is a glide, which is optional. V is a vowel, optionally lengthened. Sometimes it is lengthened, sometimes it remains as it is. So consonant, vowel and consonant, CF final consonant. These are kind of mandatory to have a structure of syllable, and suffix could be optional. We also get to know like where they occur. If there is like there could be prefix, there could be two types of prefix, prefix 1 and prefix 2. Suffix, we don't have like two suffixes, only one suffix could be there. So whenever like these two types of suffixes, sesquisible is a word coined by James Matisse meaning 1.5 syllables. Let's look at the verbal agreement. According to many authors such as James Bauman, George Van Driem and Scott Delancey, a system of verbal agreement should be reconstructed for Proto-Tibeto-Burman. Verbal agreement has disappeared in Chinese, Tibetan, Lolo-Burmese and most other branches, but was preserved in Kiranti languages in particular. This is a topic of scholarly debate. However, and the existence of Proto-Tibeto-Burman verbal agreement system is disputed by authors like Randy La Polla. As we have seen, like when a syllable structure, in the syllable structure there could be the presence of two prefixes. So each prefix, the presence of each prefix indicate some specific meaning in a word. Like Matisse postulates the following derivational prefixes. If the prefix is sa, is used for the directive, causative, intensive. It also appears in words for animals and body parts. So this particular prefix can be used for these purposes and also for animals and body parts. So by the usage of prefix, one could easily understand what would it mean. If there is a glottal and R combination, or this combination of prefixes, this glottal prefix is used for kinship functions and the third person possessive. So for each purpose, each function, we have a separate type of prefixes. Ma prefix can be used before verb roots. This prefix signifies inner directed states or actions such as stativity, intransitivity, durativity, reflexivity. Before noun roots, it is used as a third person possessive prefix. Ra being used as a prefix before verbs, this prefix is used as a directive. It is also used before a wide variety of semantically unrelated noun roots. Ba prefix is often used before transitive verbs and usually marks the past with suffix sa, creating ba, sa circumfix, and the future with a null suffix. Ga being used as a prefix is a velar prefix, has a third person pronominal function before noun roots. It is also used before a wide variety of semantically unrelated noun roots. Before verb roots, it is used for the present future tenses. In Proto-Lolo-Burmese, the unvoiced below prefix ka is used commonly before animal names. So we find there are different types of prefix for indicating different types of actions. So there could be two prefixes in a syllable, right? And both the prefix could be optional also. But syllable can take only one suffix, and same as prefix, suffixes do have a different functions. These Proto-Tibeto-Burman dental suffixes na, ta, sa are highly widespread, but their semantics are difficult to reconstruct. The suffixes sa, ha and glottal stop are often developed into tones in many Tibeto-Burman languages and are thus highly tonogenetical potent. So where this na suffix is used has a variety of functions including nominalizing, transitivizing, collectivizing or pluralizing. The nominalizing function is attested in Lepcha as ma, na, or in written Tibetan as na. The transitivizing form is very rare and has only been attested in Konori. Finally, the collectivizing or pluralizing function is found not only in many modern day Tibeto-Burman languages but also in Old Chinese as well. So if you look at the ta as suffix, it is used as a nominalizer. It occurs in Jingpo as the and written Tibetan as the. Other functions include verbalizing noun roots, making intransitive or stative verbs into transitive or positive verbs. In other cases, ta appears to have no obvious function. The ta suffix is also occurs in Old Chinese, but its semantic function is unclear. Suffix sa, not easily distinguishable from ta. This proto-suffix is preserved in written Tibetan, Western Himalayish languages, Chepang, Kukish languages as glottal stop, some Kyankic languages, in some Kyankic languages, it can serve as a middle meaning. Himalayish languages such as Kanuri, causatives in Kiranti and Kukish languages. There are other suffixes like ka, which is a velar suffix. It occurs in the Kukish language, also in Old Chinese. Its semantic function is still unknown. So the semantic function of sa is also very difficult to find out. Like in the same manner, the suffix ka has also very it is difficult to find the semantic meaning of it, semantic function. However, Poulet-Blanc assigns a distributive sense to the ka suffix, but only in relation to pronominal forms. This particular morpheme means to go and can be attached to various roots as a palatal suffix to signify motion away from the deictic center. This fully syllabic proto-morpheme has now been grammaticalized and reduced to a palatal of glides in modern day Tibeto-Burman languages. The suffixes like ya, za, tasha, daza, meaning child or little one, this proto-morpheme appears in Tibeto-Burman languages as a palatal suffix ya and has also been reconstructed in several ways. Its purpose is mainly diminutive. Matisov also notes that high front vowels tend to be used for diminutive functions. The last suffix, the way and way, this protocopula can also appear as a palatal suffix ya, occurs in roots carrying abstract grammatical meanings such as articles, pronouns and deictics. Okay, thank you so much.